Welcome back, and welcome to the Pylon Cam YouTube channel if this is your first time here. We haven't done one of these videos in a while, so I started a new job, which kind of threw my schedule through a first spin. But we're back. We've been doing a bunch of mock drafts. We've been still doing our power rankings, but we've really fell off in terms of fantasy content just because of scheduling and whatnot. But we're back now. We're here. We're going to pump all this content back out for the rest of the season. And I'm here for Week 13 to help you punch it home, get into playoffs, hopefully win your championship. With all that being said, let's get into the video. Let's get into these waiver wire pickups. Sorry if I sound like I have a lisp or a little bit nasally. I'm pretty sick. I also desperately need to shave, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, first player on the waiver wire that I would recommend picking up, and I've organized these by position, first to last, of who I would pick up. First player, Chuba Hubbard. He is here indefinitely with CMC going to the waiver wire for the second time this season. His 2021-2022 season is effectively over immediately. He will not be returning, so it's the Chuba Hubbard show. Chuba Hubbard, what is to expect from him for the rest of the season? If you have any fab, I would blow the rest of it on Chuba if he's on waivers, because it's the volume, all of CMC's volume is now his. He probably won't be as effective with it, but it's his for the taking. He will play a minimum of 60% of snaps. He will have a minimum, in my estimation, of 18 attempts per game on the ground. Excuse me. And he will have at least probably around 4 targets per game. Huge question marks at quarterback. If you watch our power ranking video, I was very skeptical of what to expect with Cam Newton. I don't know why everybody was getting up so excited about that. But with Sam Darnold or PJ Walker, whoever's playing, even if it's Cam Newton, they're probably going to be advised to hit their checkdowns much more often than not. So maybe we'll see an uptick in Chuba's targets. But Chuba is a fix. He's a flex option indefinitely for the rest of the season. He is now has RB2, RB1 upside some weeks. They have a pretty schedule for running backs. They're going into a bye this week, but then they play Atlanta, which will be a good game for him. And they play Buffalo, which will not be a good game for him. Tampa, which will not be a good game for him. New Orleans, which will not be a good game for him. And Tampa, which will not be a good game for him. But the volume is there. So I would take Chuba. He has a really tough schedule down the stretch. But I think because there's no CMC, he's going to get all the work. And I think he's a talent, and he's talented enough to break one off and have a few 80 to 100-yard games in that span. I think he is that type of player. Anyway, next player on this list, Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison, I've said this multiple times. If you follow the channel, if you listen to our podcast, I have said Alexander Madison is the best backup running back in the NFL for a very long time. And I'm not counting the Kareem Hunts or the Nyheim Hines. I'm not counting players who see 50% to 40% of snaps every game. I'm talking about pure backups. And in the 2 games, this is a tweet from Field Yates, but in the 2 games that Madison played without Dalvin Cook, in Week 3 against Seattle and Week 5 against Detroit, he had over 20 points both weeks. He played 68% of snaps in Week 3 and 66% of snaps in Week 5. He had 26 attempts Week 3, 25 attempts in Week 5, over 112 yards each game, and over 7 targets in each game with a touchdown. Even if this kid is not scoring, the volume is just there. He has Detroit again, so that's another 20-point game for Madison pretty much waiting to happen. And then they play Pittsburgh, which will be a much more tougher contest. But Pittsburgh is getting healthy, but they're also getting hurt again. So for that reason, I love Madison. He's one of my favorite players. I think this kid deserves a starting spot somewhere in the NFL. I think he is that good. So if I can't get Hubbard, this is the person I'm spending the lion's share of my fab on. The minimum timetable for Dalvin Cook is 2 weeks. He's dealing with a torn labrum that he suffered from a dislocated. I think he had a torn labrum for a while, and then he dislocated his shoulder against San Francisco, and now it's a really torn labrum, so he's going to be out for a minimum 2 weeks. He has RB1 upside. I think this kid's really good. I would spend, if I can't get Chuba, I'm spending it on Madison. Next player on this list is Matt Breida. I think Matt Breida, if you look at his snap percentage, you're going to be like, wow, 30% of snaps, do I really want this player? But you have to look at the context. Zach Moss was a healthy scratch for the first time in his career. I think that Singletary will dominate the snap share and most of the work, but where Breida's volume and value comes from is in the red zone. He had 17 points against the Jets, and he only had 3 attempts. He had 3 attempts for 28 yards and a touchdown, and he caught he had 3 targets, 3 passes, and a touchdown. And then against New Orleans, he had 9 attempts, 26 yards, 2 targets, 2 catches, and a touchdown. So they're just using him in the red zone, but he is very effective in the red zone. He's been very efficient with his volume. I think with Breida, like Singletary is only there to get them to the red zone. Then it's just Matt Breida. And he is taking all the rushing, all the pass catching work in the red zone. I think that this Bills team understands the need for being able to run the ball in the red zone. So, excuse me. I don't think Breida is going anywhere. I think they're like done with Zach Moss because they're getting more efficiency from Matt Breida than they were Zach Moss, and they were just using Zach Moss in the red zone. So I think you're totally safe picking up Matt Breida, but we are moving down the list of this is just for running backs for right now. There's a few pass catchers I want to talk about, but this is just running backs for right now. And then the next running back on my list is Jamaal Williams, and I put Jamaal Williams under Matt Breida because Jamaal Williams only plays around 40% or less of snaps. There's one occasion where he played more than 40% of snaps, and that was week 3 against Baltimore. But with Jamaal Williams, I think, DeAndre Swift is out for X amount of weeks. I don't think there's a timetable on him yet, but I don't remember that he hurt his shoulder. I don't remember what the injury was, but DeAndre Swift got hurt in the first quarter against Chicago on Thanksgiving, and Jamaal Williams played the rest of the game. He had played 63% of snaps. He had 15 attempts for 65 yards and 5 targets with 5 catches. And the thing about Jamaal Williams is why I think he deserves, like if you have fab or a waiver claim, like I would put it on Jamaal Williams if the other running backs aren't available, is because Jermar Jefferson, their rookie running back who they drafted in the 6th round, is hurt, and Godwin Ikwabuki is also hurt. I don't know if I pronounced that name right, but I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because that was definitely a good try. Godwin Ikwabuki is also hurt. So it's just Jamaal Williams. He will be the 3-down back. They don't have any other option. That's why he played the most snaps that he did in his entire season. So definitely would pick up Jamaal Williams if you could. And the next player on this list is Dontrell Hilliard. So if you're like me, you probably picked up D'Onta Foreman expecting him to be the guy, but it actually was an even split pretty much down the middle with Hilliard. Hilliard looks way more explosive, and the interesting thing with Hilliard is in Week 11 against Houston, he played 63% of snaps, but he had 7 attempts for 35 yards, averaging 5 yards per carry, but he had 10 targets for 8 receptions, and then in Week 12, you saw his snap percentage go down to 51%. He had 12 attempts for 131 yards, averaging 11 attempts per carry, and but only 2 targets. So definitely interesting with Hilliard. I think he's way more explosive. I think he's going to start to get most of the work over D'Onta Foreman. And why I'm telling you to pick him up this week, even though he's going into a bye, is because for someone who has Dalvin Cook, or let's say Alvin Kamara, and they're like, crap, well, I need a replacement for this week, and I have Dontrell Hilliard. I can't play him this week, so I have to drop him. That's why I would pick him this week, because he's going to get dropped, and you want to get him when nobody's looking to pick him up. That's my thought process behind that, because if you wait after the bye, people are going to be like, oh, crap, he's playing Jacksonville. I should probably pick him up, and then he's going to be a hot waiver claim. So I would pick him up while he's kind of in that trough of demand. And then last running back is Sony Michel. There are rumors or murmurs that Darrell Henderson might not play this week against Jacksonville, so this would be a really good game for Sony Michel unless they just throw all over them. But I'm assuming it would kind of be similar to when they played the Giants. They're going to jump to an early lead and then just run the rest of the game. But if Darrell Henderson doesn't play, we could expect Sony Michel to play around 80% of snaps. And I'm imagining, since there's no other really backfield option, he's going to play the Darrell Henderson role to a T. Darrell Henderson is dealing with a quad injury. I don't know if it has a designation aside from just a quad injury. So we're going to see him have probably play about 80% of snaps and have somewhere 15 plus touches. But keep an eye, if you're looking at Sony Michel, keep an eye on Darrell Henderson's status this week. I think you could definitely just pick him up and drop someone. If you can't get any of the other aforementioned players, I'd pick up Sony Michel and just keep an eye on Darrell Henderson. Drop someone you definitely don't need anymore. Maybe if you're still holding on to Henry Ruggs or something, or CMC, I'd pick up Michel. And then the first pass catcher, that's going to do it for the running backs, but the first pass catcher on this list is Kendrick Bourne. This is someone who I have actually kept an eye on all season. I picked him up in a few leagues where I could. To me, he's carved his rollout as the down the field threat. And what I've noticed with the New England Patriots is they've been getting progressively more aggressive throughout the year, allowing Mac Jones to go from the least average air yards per attempt to, according to Week 12, the longest average intended air yards per attempt, throwing over 8 yards per attempt. And I think with Kendrick Bourne, he had 6 targets, 5 catches, 61 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 12.2 yards per catch. I really like this kid, and I think with Mac Jones just getting more comfortable in the system, he's a good option. Definitely a good option to pick up off of waivers. And not to toot my own horn, but I've been right about the Patriots pretty much every step of the way this season. They're one team that I have been on the money on, probably more than any other team. I think in the first podcast we did, Ramondre Stevenson was the first player I talked about ever being on YouTube. That kid is a beast, and I was right about him being, just taking over Damian Harris's role. Damian Harris is still good, but they're not going to sign him. They're going to just roll with Stevenson. Bill Belichick will never pay a running back. But I think I'm going to be right with Kendrick Bourne. He has the most, for receivers, he has the most touchdowns of any receivers. Right now, he's sitting at 5 touchdowns. I'm not sure who the next closest guy is. But I would definitely pick up Kendrick Bourne, especially with the aggression that is developing in the Patriots offense. And then the last player we're going to talk about that you can pick up off of waivers is Van Jefferson. So Van Jefferson, since Week 7, has played over 94% of snaps, except for Week 8 against Houston. He played 84, probably because they were up and they were just running the ball. But if you remove the Houston game, he's played a minimum of 94% of snaps. And I think I don't think, it says it on the screen, but he has seen a minimum of 6+ targets since Week 7. He has gone 7, 6, 7, 7 by 9. And last week against Green Bay, he had 9 targets where he only caught 3, but he still had 9 targets. They're still throwing him the ball over 6 times a game. So if you need a viable flex option who's pretty boom or bust, I would go with Van Jefferson. I think he is a pretty high floor type of player just because of the sheer volume he has, being that he's seeing at least 6 targets per game. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'm happy to be back with the fantasy stuff. Please like, comment, do all that good stuff. But yeah, let me know if there's anybody I missed, anybody you think we should talk about, we should be picking up off of waivers. Generate that discussion in the comments. If you want to call me an idiot, that's totally fine. I'm cool with that. Just explain why I'm an idiot, because then I'll just be wondering why you called me an idiot, and I'll be really confused. And I'm going to take the time to comment why am I an idiot back at you. So just explain to me why I'm an idiot, and we'll all be happy. We'll all be happy campers. But yeah, let me know how you guys are doing in your fantasy leagues. Let me know if you have any questions. Be more than happy to answer them the best I can. But yeah, I will catch you in the next video. Peace!
I'm sitting in the crib dreaming about Learjets and coupes, the way Salt shoots and how to sell records like Snoop. I'm interrupted by a doorbell, 3:52. Who the hell is this?